Alright guys, we wanted to talk today about lower back pain for anyone who experiences lower back pain, especially if you tend to sit down a lot, whether it's driving or at a desk, experiencing chronic lower back pain. With that said, if you've had any major issues with back pain, always recommend getting checked out by a professional, maybe seeing a physical therapist or someone that can really get in depth there. But this is more for just general tightness, soreness, pain, to go over a little program you can do to see if it helps with those, address those issues. The reason for the movements we have here is to address some of the bigger muscle groups that exist around our trunk, but also to address some of these smaller, deeper muscles that are often neglected in both daily life and in training programs. So we split the exercises into 2 days, so day 1 and day 2. You can do each day once a week or twice a week. I would recommend starting there. I wouldn't worry about doing any more than that. So total days of doing this is doing 1 to 2 days of day 1, 1 to 2 days of day 2, and sticking with that consistently for 6 weeks or more. 6 to 12 weeks has been shown to really help make substantial changes. With that said, if you notice you've made some improvements, we don't want to just go back to doing what we were doing before. We always want to have some layer of midline and accessory work, especially if you're someone that sits down at a desk or at a chair or in your car for long periods of time. So right now we're just going to go over these movements. We have some rep ranges or some holds in terms of time domain that we're looking for. The first movement is a glute bridge or a single leg glute bridge. I'll demo that in a moment. For that, you want to choose based on where you're starting from. So if you really notice you're very weak in and around your trunk, when you get on the ground, you will start using both legs at the same time. So you have both legs up towards your hips, and you'll lift up. Try not to flare your ribs out. Try to focus on squeezing your butt to hold this position. If this is easy for you, you're like, hey, I can hold this for a few minutes, then what you can do is you can do a single leg bridge on one side. You can hold that for 30 to 60 seconds on one leg, and then 30 to 60 on the other. When we're holding that, just make sure that your hip doesn't drop. Right, so we want to be able to keep those hips nice and high. We don't want them to drop towards the ground. That's a sign that we need to stick with that double leg bridge for a little longer. The second movement, the prone bent leg raise. So prone, we're going to be laying on our stomach. We're going to bend our leg to 90 degrees. And from here, we're going to focus on driving that foot towards the ceiling. You can do all 10 on one side. Give yourself a 1 or 2 second hold at the top. After those 10 on the left, you'll switch and do 10 on the opposite side. When you lift that foot, let's just make sure we're not lifting up our hips. Keep your hips in contact with the floor as you lift. So again, it'll be 10 per side. The next one, the pausing bird dogs. You're going to do 5 of those. Each one's going to consist of a 5 to 10 second hold, and that again is really just determined on how well you perform the movement. The better you perform the movement, the longer you can perform the hold. So we'll start here. I'm going to lift my left hand and my right leg, hold that end position for 5 to 10 seconds, then switch to the other side. Just like on the single leg glute bridge, I don't want movement in my trunk. So I want to stay nice and tight here to hold me in that same position throughout the duration of the movement. The fourth movement on day 1, that is pausing reverse hyper. So we're going to head over to the GHD for this.
Let's change it.
We're going to set up so the hips are beyond the pad. You can do this off of a table as well. Just make sure the table doesn't tip over, or have someone hold the table. Then from here, I'm going to lift with my legs straight and hold that top for about 5 seconds. I'm really trying to focus on squeezing and contracting those muscles in and around my hips. We're going to go back over so we can review day 2. Day 2 starts with a plank hold. We'll hold the plank on our hands 30 to 60 seconds. If you find that to be pretty easy, you can go with a weighted plank hold. When we're holding that plank, just think about keeping your belly button pulled towards your spine. I don't want you to flare your chest out. Keep this area hollow. So we're engaging our abs and squeezing our butt. So we'll be down here. Hands directly under the shoulders. That's our setup. Next, side plank. Gave a range there, 15 to 45 seconds per side. A lot of people tend to struggle with side planks having not done them before. You can set up on your hand or on your elbow. And we have one foot stacked over the other. And we have this nice straight line from our shoulders to our hips to our ankles. We're not sagging down. So again, you might have to start 15 seconds and build from there, or you might be a stud and you can hold it for 45 seconds per side from the start. The next one, pelvic tilts. Might want to not do this in public. Gets a little weird, all right, especially if you're just like staring at someone. You can put your hands on your hips or you can put them off to the side. What we're trying to think about doing is tilting our hips forward and back. So I'm gonna think about tilting my hips forward and then pulling them back. Tilting my hips forward and pulling them back. I'm just getting used to feeling my hips tilting forward and back. I don't want to flare my ribs out when I do that. I want the movement to be coming from the hips. So again, you can probably see how that gets a little weird. If you're just standing in a corner doing that and you don't know people, they might be a little weirded out, but who knows. Last one, seated hip flexion plus press. 30 to 45 seconds of this. You're just gonna sit on the ground and you're gonna lean your shoulders back. The further back you go, the more difficult it is. So again, you're gonna have to modify this to your ability. You're gonna take something that's pretty light. This wall ball weighs 6 pounds, something around that. And you're just gonna be sitting back in this position where you feel your midline engaged and bracing. You're just gonna press up and down. If that's easy, you can sit backwards more. If it's hard, you can sit forwards more. But we're trying to focus on engaging here to hold us in that position. So those are 2 days of work that we can do in and around our trunk to address some of those larger trunk muscles and abdominals, help them get stronger, but also those deeper muscles that help provide stability and strength to our spine.